Hey, welcome back to That 70s Card Show. I'm your host, John Keating, and I thank you for joining me as I take a look back at the cards and the culture of the very colorful 1970s. We'll revisit a more simple time in our hobby by taking a deep dive into the sets and the stats with a generous amount of dad facts sprinkled in. That 70s Card Show is currently sponsored by nobody. If you have a comment or suggestion, I urge you to drop me a line at that70scardShow at gmail.com. Twitter, I'm 70s Card. And YouTube, of course, that 70s Card Show. This is episode 59. That's a 5 and a 9. So the Mike Momoa episode. If you know who Mike Momoa is, he is I guess he was one of the first draft or combine warriors, as they say. We invented a statistic in Philadelphia for Mike Momoa, who was a defensive end in a linebacker's body. A Momoa was a near sack, so essentially, if the quarterback was down on the ground or had just thrown the ball, that's when Mike Momoa would show up. So nobody will get that joke except for probably at reference, except for probably my two brothers, Joseph and Paul. So thank you for entertaining that. I appreciate that. Hey, so I am back here on episode 59, and yeah, 2 episodes in 1 month. Pretty surprising. I appreciate the kind words, everybody, and the kindness everybody showed to me kind of last week after my little mini tantrum about the hobby and about enjoying what this thing is all about. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm sure we're all trying to figure it out. I love baseball cards. If you look over that shoulder, you'll see cards from 1906 all the way up to 2022. And that means I still have modern cards. I still collect modern cards. I don't necessarily enjoy the modern game, as we've talked about, but I really, really love baseball cards, football cards, basketball cards, possibly hockey cards, and maybe even soccer cards, even though soccer is the sport I prefer to watch today over any other sport. So people reached out to me. They got a lot of comments on YouTube. Thank you for that. It's there in case anybody wants to see that. Very kind words by everybody and encouragement. DMs, same thing. Text messages and instant message on Facebook. I almost said AOL there. So very kind words. Very, what it is. It's just about chatting with other collectors, which is pretty cool. That's what it's about. Again, I'm an introvert who collected alone since the mid 70s. So getting to know people, there's so many open people, open-minded people. And that's something I'm trying to learn how to let into my life because, hey, man, I'm so cool that I just enjoy being by myself, which is absolutely not true. But I do enjoy being by myself. So anyway, thank you to all who reached out, ladies, gentlemen, and possibly some kids as well. I'm not sure, but thank you to all. Wonderful, wonderful. Really made me feel good. Really kind of invigorated me. After I recorded my little diatribe, I was on Hobby Hotline last Tuesday, and that was fun. That was cathartic. And again, my quest is to continue to learn, and I am learning more and more about this hobby. I need to learn to accept the other avenues of this hobby. I don't necessarily need to agree with them, but I just need to accept them. That doesn't mean I approve of the shenanigans that happen, so I will continue to be highly triggered by some of the shenanigans that we see out there. Collecting. I love collecting. I love cards, as I said, but one of the things that one of the, I guess, pivotal moments of my collecting happened at a very early age in the mid 70s. There was kind of a run there 1974, 75, and 76. And you can include 73, but I didn't discover that until later. But what those 74, 75, and 76 sets had in them were subsets that really they essentially blew my mind. 74, of course, the first 5 cards were, the first 6 cards were with Hank Aaron, and 5 of them were career, showed all his tops cards, 4 per card for 5 cards. Got to see the old cards for essentially the first time by looking at those cards. 75 came along, and 75 had the MVP from the AL and the NL. And again, they reproduced cards from horizontal cards. We can all close our eyes and envision them of the card from that player's MVP season. Of course, I think there's a Maury Wills. Obviously, there's a Maury Wills Fugazi card on there that Topps made up since he didn't have one his MVP year, and one of the Campanella ones too. But anyway, it let me look back into the history of the sport and in the history of cards. And then, of course, 76 was the coup de grace there with the all-time all-stars. I think it was 10 players, black and white cards, all these old-timers with their career stats on the back. Names that some of them I may have heard, like Babe Ruth and Gehrig, but others like Pie Traynor and Hornsby and some of those other guys that I may not have heard of. So anyway, yes, made me want to look back, and at that age, from about that age, I kind of caught the bug for the old timey cards, and back I went as I got older as well. So I remember picking up cards along the way, 1 at a time, 2 at a time, from the 50s and 60s. So what we're going to talk about today is the 1979 TCMA 50s set. Now, many of you may have heard of it. Many of you may not have heard of it, but it's a pretty cool set that was put out in 1979 by TCMA. Of course, TCMA is Tom Collier and Mike Ehrenstein, also behind the Sports Stars Publishing Company, SSPC, put out a couple sets in the mid-70s and then later on as well. Now, Mike Ehrenstein, who is a Jefferson Burdock Award winner from Sabre, the first one, and of course, Dr. Beckett will be the third one this weekend, so congrats to Dr. Jim. And in between there's a photographer at number 2, which is debatable. But anyway, late 70s, TCMA had lost a lawsuit against Topps to show current players, which that 75 SSPC 42 card set had modern players in it, and that 76 SSPC monster set had modern players. So Topps sued, TCMA lost. So TCMA comes out with this 1979 set, right? And what do? Well, guess what? Let's celebrate the 50s. So they celebrated the 50s, no modern players to avoid litigation with Topps. And what a set it was. It checks all those boxes for me. Has most of the stars from the 50s. It has all those old-time teams, all those old-time uniforms. So I'm going to talk to you. I'll tell you what old Beckett OPG has to say about this set. This is ripped from the headlines from Beckett OPG. It says, the TCMA Stars of the 50s set contains 291 standard-size cards featuring the players of the 50s. This set features a good mix of superstars and not so important players of the era. This set was TCMA's attempt at issuing cards after Topps successfully enjoined them from issuing current players. Using the style, which was typical of most of the TCMA issues, the fronts are clear with an informative biography on the back. The Hutchinson and Wirtz cards, which we'll talk about in a second, were also issued with the word sample stamped on the back. So think 53 Bowman color, which many would put as the all-time greatest set of baseball cards. Think about that. That 76 set that they put out was rife with photos taken by an interloper who was let onto the field prior to games, dodgy lighting, dodgy poses, and all taken at Shea Stadium. Now, this set here is a little bit different. This set uses all 50s photos, obviously, and it's a mixture of some stadium shots. Very rarely do you see stadium shots, but for the most part, it's spring training photographs. Pretty cool stuff. So again, 291 base cards. There's 2 bonus cards, which are team cards from the Braves and the Dodgers. It's 55 Dodgers, which I'll get to in a second, and Braves, which I can only assume is, I don't know, maybe 57, I suppose. Why they chose those teams, unknown to me. Card 15A is Vic Wertz, and that is a card that is normal. Card 15B is the same card, but on the back there's a sample stamp on the back instead of career stats. Same thing with Fred Hutchinson at 138. Regular issue A and a sample card B, with the back being different. There are also 2 Marv Throneberry cards that feature him throwing left-handed on one and right-handed on the other. So that's a total of 296 cards when you factor in the bonus cards as well as the variation cards there. 291. Card 291 is the Jackie Robinson card. So we'll get to that. One of the problems with the set is that there's no Hank Aaron, there's no Whitey Ford, there's no Frank or Brooks Robinsons, there's no Harmon Killebrew. I kind of understand, maybe Killebrew was kind of a bonus baby. He spent some time in the minors during the mid to late 50s. Brooks and Frank, they were established. I don't know what happened there. Whitey Ford, of course, was Whitey Ford, and Aaron was, don't know what happened there. Perhaps a licensing thing, right? There is a Sandy Koufax card, and Sandy Koufax had a blistering 28-27 record in the 1950s. So it kind of makes you wonder why there's a Koufax, but there's no Killebrew. Obviously, there's no rookie cards in this set. There are, however, 37 Hall of Fame cards. It's a pretty impressive list. Most of them are individual cards, but there's also some multiplayer cards as well. So a lot of folks in there from the Hall of Fame, and pretty impressive. So let's talk about the set itself, fronts of the cards. And listen, these guys started out 10 cards out of the gate like no other set I've seen. Again, white border around there, kind of all posed shots, and kind of reminiscent of the 53 Bowman color, as I said. Card 1 is DiMaggio. Card 2 is Yogi Berra. Card 3, Warren Spahn. Nice shot of him with his glove through his wrist loop there, kind of warming the ball up in his hand. Ernie Banks is posed, getting ready to throw that ball to first base. I don't think his Cubs hat has a logo on it. Robin Roberts is depicted tying his right shoe with a baseball nearby just in case. Willie Mays has 2 bats in his hand. It just isn't fair with 1 bat, but he's got 2 in there. Card number 7 is a very, very young Mickey Mantle. It's a great shot, hands on your knees, ready for the ball. Card 8 is Roy Campanella, catcher, squatting, throwing, all that stuff, full catcher regalia minus the mask. Stan Musial is depicted in card number 9, as you would picture him, hunched over home plate, dangerously close to having his head on the right side of the batter's box. And then card 10 is the greatest hitter of all time, Ted Williams, in full swing on the grass. So, again, wow, what a way to come out of the chute, and it falls off pretty quickly after that. But a lot of stars to come after that. Again, this is 10, 1 through 10, and then there will be additional cards. Probably another 25 Hall of Famers if you don't count the multiplayer cards. There's some horizontal cards. There's probably a little bit over a dozen horizontal cards on this. A couple of them are multiplayer cards, obviously, and a couple of them are strictly, I think, gratuitous to having players stretch out for baseballs. So, yeah, a lot of that going on. No team names, no player names, no positions on the front of the cards. Just nice and clean, white border, beautifully posed photos. Takes you back in time to a place in time when the game was more simple and beautiful, and the hobby was, of course, not quite as developed as it is now. Let's get to the backs of the cards. Vic Wertz, again, along with his boy Fred Hutchinson, were depicted with their regular backs and the sample backs. So talking about the backs of these cards, there's 3 stars, 2 on the left side, 1 on the right side. These are all horizontal backs, by the way. Upper left-hand corner is a infield baseball diamond with the card number printed in there. Card is a white back, black ink, and a couple orange stripes with white font in between. Name of the player at top, prominently in all caps and italics. Ooh, what a bold move that was. And in the orange band just below the name, we have the team name that they, I guess, TCMA decided to pick a team in case there was players with multiple teams. Just, I guess, their predominant team is on there. We have their birth dates and their birth towns there, their height, their weight, whether they batted left or batted right. There's a nice little bio blurb in there for the players. And then we have lifetime records below for our hitters. It says games, at bats, hits, home runs, RBIs, and batting averages. For our pitchers, games, innings, won, lost, percentage, strikeouts, and ERA are included there. So essentially, everybody's got a career card here, right? Because they had been long retired by 1979. On the very bottom is a copyright 1979 TCMA Ltd. Limited. This is in an orange band and white font, and baseball history series prominently displayed at the center in that orange band. So that's your regular player card. Again, Vic Wertz is absent of his career stats and his bio blurb, as well as card number on the sample version, with sample stamped diagonally where the bio and career stats would be. Veterans and the rookie. There's some multiplayer cards. So card 239, for example, says the veteran and the rookie. And I'm sure there's a lot of mistakes in this set. I haven't read all the backs, but on the first row of the preacher row, a.k.a. the veteran, and Johnny Padres, a.k.a. the rookie. Johnny Padres' name is spelled Padres, as in just like the San Diego Padres. And these multiplayer cards just have blurbs about the players on there. Same copyright, same baseball history series on the bottom. And then there's the Brooklyn Dodgers bonus card. It says there is no card number in the diamond, but the diamond is there. Bonus card 1, it says in the big orange band. It says 1955 Brooklyn Dodgers across the top. And a blurb about the 55 Dodgers. Same trademark, same title below. And, of course, we have Eddie Waitkus, who I threw him in there because he's famous for having wonderful, wonderful card backs. And, of course, here we have, I'll read you a couple lines. Eddie was traded to the Phillies by the Cubs in 1949, and he barely escaped death in his first year in Philadelphia when a crazed 19-year-old girl shot him in a Chicago hotel. Waitkus underwent 4 operations and returned to play 6 seasons with the Phillies. That's half his bio. The rest isn't nearly as interesting. So obviously Eddie's extracurricular activities were world famous, and I'm glad TCMA took the time to point them out. As stated before, card number 291, of course, is our beloved Jackie Roosevelt Robinson. His stats, right? We always look at his stats, and they weren't the greatest stats ever, but this guy did it under a tremendous amount of pressure. 1,382 games, 4,877 at bats, 1,518 hits, 137 home runs, 734 RBIs, and a 311 batting average. Jackie, I think he played what? I don't know, 9 years maybe? Wasn't that long, right? So he regular career would have been pretty phenomenal if he had been able to play longer and start sooner. Of course, he didn't start playing in the major leagues till he was 28 years old. So Jackie Robinson, last card. It's kind of cool because he was not put in with those first those first 10 bangers at the front end of the set. So wonderful, wonderful tribute to him. Here's the 55 Hoochie Macoochie Brooklyn Dodgers and I believe again, the 57 Milwaukee Braves at County Stadium. Both teams are depicted in their home stadiums. Full team photos. Nice touch. Again, I don't know why these two teams were picked out of the decade. Perhaps maybe they were underdogs. Maybe whatever reason they picked them. Maybe somebody else knows. This set is, of course, a wonderful set for you catcher, collector, freaky deeks. Lots going on. A lot of different poses. Of course, the Yogi Berra card was in full catcher get-ups, and then there's all sorts of great catcher photos throughout this set as well. Let's see here. Who else are we going to talk about? Let's talk about card number. So this set, as most sets, are from the 50s. Obviously, New York had a heavy influence between the Giants, the Dodgers, and the Yankees, right? So this set seems to have a particular heavy bent on the Dodgers. So the multiplayer cards are Dodgers. They have that Brooklyn Dodgers bonus card, 1955. There's well over 30 Dodgers in this set. Keep in mind, back then there were 16 teams, so 8 in each league. So the Dodgers feature prominently in this set, and most of them are Brooklyn Dodgers that you would know. Some are Brooklyn Dodgers that you won't know. But again, those there's a veteran and rookie card that we talked about with Preacher Row and Johnny Padres. There's the Dodger Brain Trust card, which is the coaches of the Dodgers, including Walter Alston, is featured as a coach. Of course, he was a manager as well for the Dodgers in the 50s. And then there's the Dodger Power card that has Duke Snider and Gil Hodges and Carl Furillo and somebody else in there. So a lot of Brooklyn Dodgers, but what I found interesting out of those 30-plus cards is Joe Pignatano's card number 204. Now, Joe Pignatano had 161 career hits in 307 games, and most of them elsewhere. But it's the only Dodger depicted with an L.A. Logo on his cap. The rest are B for Brooklyn, and this one says L.A. on it, so I thought that was pretty interesting. Joe Pignatano, L.A., of course, the Dodgers opened up the Coliseum in Los Angeles in 1958. So nice little idiosyncrasy there. One Los Angeles Dodger in a sea of Brooklyn blue. What else we got on this thing here? I guess we'll talk about the pricing on this stuff, right? Because this is all, I'll take this off of Beckett's OPG as well. So the Stat Zone says the total value of these 294 cards is $225.25 with an average value of 77 cents. As we all know, cards cost what we end up paying for them, not what a book or a guide necessarily says. Complete set of this will run you $40 to $80. Now, I have a pristine set. I've been looking through these today. Keep them in a nice little box, a 400 count box. I got a pristine set, and I probably paid $50 for this. And I was looking at eBay comps on Terapeak, and Terapeak will tell you somewhere around $60 is probably what you're going to pay for this set. Obviously, it's probably best to buy it complete because we know that these weren't distributed in packs or boxes. They were distributed. You had to buy them as complete sets, I believe. So it's best to buy a set that has stayed together for so long. Maybe people break them up, I guess, to get the big cards, because and we'll talk about that in a second. But commons aren't that bad. So if you're going to collect them, you're probably going to pay a quarter a common. So good luck with that. Seems like a long road to go. Top 5 cards. Mickey Mantle, which is card number 7. Imagine that. Is $6 to $15. Joe DiMaggio, $4 to $10. He's card number 1. Ted Williams, it's a shame he was not card number 9, but he's a $4 to $10 card. Roberto Clemente is number 23 in this series, and he is a $4 to $10 card. And the card number 291 that we talked about, Jackie Robinson, is $4 to $10 as well. Another interesting thing I found about this set is there, after those first 10 cards, again, it drops off a cliff, right? So card number 11 is Ed Bailey. But it seems like they, for the most part, printed these cards in after that pairs. So the next 2 players, 11 and 12, are Cincinnati Reds. 13 and 14 are Cleveland Indians. 15 and 16 are White Sox. 17 and 18 are Phillies. Pair of Indians, pair of Yankees, pair of Pirates, and it goes on and on and on. So I'm curious as to what the thinking was behind that, pairing these players up. And like I said, for the most part, that continues throughout the set. Richie Ashburn is card 17 and Del Ennis is 18. And if I were to pick something out of the middle here and look at it, I would see, what would I see? I'd see Freddie Martin, 121, and Irv Dusak, 122 of the Cardinals. So very interesting strategy there. Of course, I wasn't in the printing room or looking at the layout when they did this, but I found that to be very interesting. Maybe somebody has an answer to that. Maybe somebody can figure that out. Somebody obviously much smarter than myself. Let me look at my notes here. See what we got here. We're going to get to the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, I will say to you that man, it's hard to attach the word bad or ugly to this set because I just love the era. I love the era of the 50s, and I think that they did a great job for the most part producing this set. The back cards in particular were a big step up from the 75 set, which was just a blurb on the back. And then that's the 75 42 set, 42 card set. And then the 76 SSP set was kind of the same thing, just blurbs on the back, which didn't make any sense to anybody. I mean, I guess they couldn't pull the stats stuff together quick enough. But anyway, they did a much better job on the back of this set for sure. Now, SSPC produced a couple sets throughout the 70s and 80s, but TCMA produced a lot of sets. I think there's 41 total sets. And, after this set, they had all sorts of stuff going on. They had, prior to this set, they did a New York Yankees set. They did a Stars of the 20s, umpire sets. They did Yankee Dynasty sets, Philadelphia Athletics postcards. So a lot of nostalgia there, and a lot of really cool things to collect. So it's kind of one of those things where if you can find them, it's fun to get. And of course, probably their most famous set is the one of those Ricky Henderson sets from the 1979 Modesta A's or something like that. So anyway, I just went off on a direction that I didn't think I was going to, and who cares, right? So let's get back to the good. We'll talk a little bit about the good here. All right. Good is just really cool photos. There's a nice shot of a pitcher in a really exaggerated windup. We got a bat card there with a good 12 bats. All sorts of stuff happening here. Ted Klaczewski is pictured sleeveless and with at least 3 bats. And Roger Maris is nice little shot of Roger Maris in a Kansas City Athletics uniform, which is what I thought was pretty cool because, we don't see him a lot in the A's uniform. Kind of neat. And of course, Stan Lapata from the Phillies is really bringing it. Card number 51, he's got the glasses, the DB Cooper glasses going there, and he's crouched like Pete Rose. And I really appreciated that card for sure. Getting to the bad again, these are bad. These are great cards, but maybe with an asterisk. First of all, Chuck Dressen is pictured up against the fence in his regular people pants, wearing a Brooklyn Dodgers varsity jacket. Looks like he might be dangerously close to his escape vehicle, too, probably about 20 feet behind him. Most likely showed up at spring training, had Hey Girl time, and then went back to whatever he was doing at the hot springs or whatnot. And I got Bob Clemente up here. Well, Roberto Clemente, obviously, right? Card number 23. I'm on record as saying his 55 rookie and his 56 cards. I don't like his picture on there. And Roberto Clemente is one of the most photogenic players ever in the history of baseball, perhaps the most photogenic player. Greatest smile, greatest skin tone. Just he always looked perfect in his cards, except for the 55 and 56. Now, this card suffers from, it kind of has his personality there. I like his posture, but it's very, very dark, unfortunately. His batting helmet completely shading over his eyes. You can't see his eyes at all. So it's unfortunate. Obviously, they were filming with film back in the day, but it's hard to believe that this is the best picture TCMA could find of, again, probably the most photogenic player ever in baseball history, at least as depicted on his baseball cards. Let's show the ugly here. And this is your drunk uncle ugly card all in one. Leo DeRocher is doing something, perhaps hitting infield grounders to his infield, but he's in full baseball uniform, probably the Giants, right? Except he's not wearing a cap, and he still probably has more hair than me, but man, that chrome dome is really showing in the Florida sun. The ball's kind of midair, elbow high, and he's coming through. I like the eye of the tiger and the intensity, but it's just an interesting card. Probably, it's a horizontal card, and it's probably a true action card. But they might have done better than this. Spring training, people in the background, all that stuff. So great card, but it has to, drunk uncle and bad all in one here, but bad with an asterisk. Please keep that in mind. So that's the 19 stars of the 1950s, which is the 1979 TCMA set. Again, love it. Think it's great. I bought this thing all at once. I love the TCMA sets. I have the complete 76 SSPC, and then Mark Hoyle was kind enough to send me a couple dozen or so of the 42 set. So I imagine it's going to be very difficult to complete the 75 42 card set again because of they weren't distributed individually. Any of these cards or in packs, they were distributed typically mail order all at once. So thanks for that. Again, nostalgia kind of warms the heart to see this stuff. Reinvigorates my love for the cards and for collecting, and perhaps taking a little bit of the edge off the acuteness of the modern hobby and the day-to-day grind there. So anyway, thanks for joining me this week in my journey back in time. If you have a comment or suggestion, or perhaps a set from the 1970s you want me to take a look at, reach out to me at ThatSeventiesCardShow at gmail.com, 70s card on Twitter, or comment to me, at me, with me, for me on That 70s Card Show on YouTube. Music on the podcast is provided by Mango Safari. And once again, folks, enjoy your collecting, and more importantly, enjoy your collection. So have a great week. Be safe, everybody. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.